Ah yes, K-pop. Korean pop. The genre and industry that has seen a massive surge around the world these past few years. Love it or hate it, you can't deny K-pop's popularity. For some in the queer community, K-pop has helped them discover and celebrate their queer identities. However, although K-pop can help uplift queer identities, in some ways it can damage them as well. Throughout this video, I'll be describing both the good and the bad that K-pop has done and is doing for the queer community. I'll be taking a look at different aspects of the K-pop world, including stan Twitter, shipping, queerbaiting, and the realities of being a queer K-pop idol. I interviewed 2 individuals to gather their opinions about queerness in K-pop. For privacy reasons, I do not use their real names and will only refer to them as Sabrina and Olivia. For some of the tweets and profiles I show, I have blocked out usernames for similar privacy reasons. We begin with stan Twitter. For those unfamiliar with the term stan, it's a term that originated from an Eminem song with the same title. It was about a man named Stan who had a complete obsession with Eminem. Stan ended up killing his pregnant girlfriend and then himself after Eminem refused to answer his letters. Although some will say that stan is meant to mean a crazed fan, the term has been boiled down over the years and now often just means a fan of someone famous. Hence, when you hear me use the phrase K-pop stans, I'm really just referring to K-pop fans. Although K-pop stans can be found all over the internet using different social sites, Twitter is one of the most commonly used. There isn't a single reason why K-pop stans choose to use Twitter. On top of having many K-pop groups and soloists being on Twitter, Twitter also provides a platform where quick updates can be made, especially when new content is always dropping. Being queer on K-pop stan Twitter is pretty common. In fact, based on my personal experience, you're more likely to stumble across a queer K-pop stan's Twitter profile than a straight one. It is not uncommon to click on an individual's profile and see their pronouns and sometimes sexuality in the location section. If someone's sexuality can't be found in their bio, it will likely be found in their card. A card is like a mini website that acts as an extension of a bio, but more on that later. If you happen to be active on K-pop stan Twitter, something you'll occasionally see is coming out posts. Coming out may include revealing your sexuality or identifying as a different gender with new pronouns. Some of these individuals are not out of the closet to their friends or family, but are perfectly content coming out to strangers online. I interviewed one such K-pop stan Twitter user about her experience coming out online. Sabrina is a 20-year-old from Serbia and identifies as queer. For context, mutuals refers to individuals who mutually follow each other. Here's what Sabrina said about her experience coming out. I have a lot of mutuals who are LGBTQ+. I joined stan Twitter more than a year ago, and even back then, when I wasn't out to myself, I had a lot of exposure to the LGBTQ+ community on K-pop stan Twitter. I always knew, somewhere in the back of my mind, I wasn't straight, but it has been a long journey to accept that and myself. I come from a conservative and homophobic country and family. I was told growing up that being gay was wrong. When I finally accepted myself, I thought it was a good idea to come out to my mutuals, because I knew I would get the support that I couldn't get in real life. There are so many understanding and encouraging people on here, and people who go through the same or similar experiences, and I think that's what makes this feel like a safe space. Another interview I conducted was with a longtime K-pop fan, Olivia. Olivia has been a fan of K-pop since 2009, making them what some call a veteran K-pop stan. K-pop helped Olivia discover their queer identity. Olivia states, "It wasn't until I discovered FX not long after their debut when my queer suspicions started getting confirmed. I thought the boy in the group was insanely attractive, and when I discovered that Amber was actually a woman, I was shocked. I started watching a few clips of FX on variety shows and found myself almost falling in love with this artist, and I knew it was a genuine attraction rather than just simple appreciation. From that point in 6th grade on, I just let myself feel what I felt, only to solidify that I was definitely queer." Many idols certainly seem to accept the queerness of their fan bases. It's common to see pride flags being shown at concerts. A more concrete example, though, comes from Tiffany, a K-pop soloist who was originally in a popular but disbanded K-pop group called SNSD, otherwise known as Girls' Generation. In an interview, Tiffany stated, "All human beings are precious. All love is equal. I think it's a simple issue. Is it possible for someone in the entertainment or art scene like us to distance themselves from the LGBTQ community? Over 50% of my fan base is part of the LGBTQ community. How can I turn my back to them? That doesn't make sense." Going back to Stan Twitter, being queer on Stan Twitter sounds like a completely supportive experience, right? It gives queer fans a chance to escape some of the oppression they face outside of their space and feel accepted. Of course, when individuals are having fun, there's usually outsiders who want in, right? Enter jealous straight fans. Upset straight fans are more of an occurrence than one may think. Now, some may argue there's a kind of gatekeeping going on with Stan Twitter and queer culture. Remember how cards were mentioned earlier? Well, on many cards, one may find a section that says D&I. D&I stands for Don't Interact If. It basically means this person does not want you following them or interacting with them if you fit their D&I criteria. Although it's not very common, it's also not uncommon to find individuals who have D&I if you're cishet in their card. Sometimes group chats will even bar cishets from entering. To those unfamiliar with the term cishet, it means those who are cisgender, stay the gender they were assigned at birth, and heterosexual. To those who identify as cishet, this could seem really off-putting and would make some not even want to interact on Stan Twitter. Going back to my interview with Sabrina, I asked her why she thinks some LGBTQ+ K-pop stans have do not interact if you're cishet in their cards sometimes. Sabrina's response was, "This is something I haven't thought about much. I've only seen it a few times, mostly in a joking manner. But I'm not sure what to think of it. It's really just a personal thing. Maybe this person really does not feel comfortable having cishet mutuals if they're surrounded by cishet people on the daily." Although I didn't get the chance to interview anyone who had cishet listed in their D&I section, I assume they have it there for the same reason as Sabrina stated. These queer youth are surrounded by cishet people for most of the day, and when they finally log on to Stan Twitter, they have a place where their followers can be just like them. Being straight on Stan Twitter is a bit like being queer in the real world, in the way that, yes, you do find the odd person who has the same sexuality as you, but you're mostly surrounded by a different sexuality than your own. However, quite obviously said, being gay can unfortunately have legitimate consequences in some places. Coming out as straight on Stan Twitter does not even come close to the atrocities LGBTQ+ individuals face when coming out. Having someone tweet, "cishet's mass deletion when," does not hold the same weight as homophobic or transphobic comments. Unfortunately, due to this occasional alienation, if you can even call it that, of straight people on Stan Twitter, you get the odd person choosing to fake their sexuality to fit in. You've likely heard of LGBTQ+ individuals who try to appear straight or cis for their own protection, but straight people on Stan Twitter take things to a unique level. Take this one individual as an example who not only faked their sexuality, but race as well. Their reasoning was to get privilege on Twitter, whatever that means. There's also the odd individual who feels a sense of guilt about being straight. One Twitter user even stated that they tried to be attracted to both boys and girls, but they just aren't. When I asked Sabrina about this topic, she stated, "I think it's very insensitive to say things like, 'I feel left out, I wish I wasn't straight,' because that's just ignorant. LGBTQ+ people have to face so many things straight people don't. I couldn't stand someone saying something like that to me when I often worry about being disowned by my own family because I'm queer. Or imagine having to sit through family dinners and listen to disgusting jokes about gay people. Who would want that? Faking your sexuality is so wrong on so many levels. It's okay to be straight. Just try to be understanding of the LGBTQ+ community. Straight people feel left out? Okay, well, try feeling like that in your real, everyday life and tell me how it feels." I think a key highlight Sabrina mentioned was just to be understanding of LGBTQ+ people. There may be times where LGBTQ+ people just want their own curated space to be themselves, and having people infiltrate that space just to seem cooler, to have privilege, is incredibly ignorant and inappropriate. So now that we have a general sense of the queer identities present in K-pop stans, we'll now look into the kind of content queer stans produce and enjoy. In the world of K-pop, it's not uncommon to see stans stating that their favorite idols are queer, even when nothing's been confirmed. You even have idols that have never come out being one of the top mentioned people in the Pride hashtag. Back in the days of 90s boy bands, if fans projected queer identities onto the members, it would spark anger in many fans as they desperately hold on to the phrase, "boy bands aren't gay." Of course, these queer labels aren't just being thrown at K-pop boy groups, but girl groups, co-ed groups, and soloists as well. I asked both Sabrina and Olivia if they have ever given queer labels to the idols they stan and why they think other queer K-pop fans do this. Both of their responses are similar in nature. Sabrina stated, "I think most stans do this because it makes them feel valid. There's a difference between assuming someone's sexuality and projecting onto an idol for comfort and validation that you can't find from your loved ones in real life. It's like that for me. I've done this too. Obviously, I don't know what their sexual orientation is, and it's their personal thing, but saying stuff like that makes me feel better. Thinking that we're part of the same community or that they would be supportive of me is very comforting." Olivia stated, "I have definitely done this. Of course, not in any malicious way, it's more so in good fun. I feel like it comes naturally to me just to be curious about someone's labels, but at the end of the day, they don't matter to me. I feel like it's just fun to think of my favorite idols as being gay or noticing bisexual vibes from the way they act. I can only hope other fans do it in good fun as well." There are certainly times though where projecting queerness onto idols can be problematic. According to a study mentioned in Zao 2021, there are some female K-pop stans who prefer the idea of their favorite male idols dating another male member of their group rather than date a woman who's not them. To some, this may seem like queer support, but honestly, who knows? Some of these stans could be homophobic but have such a deep obsession with their idols that they'll put aside their homophobia to celebrate the fact that they don't have to worry about losing their idol to a woman that's not them. Another example that may appear to be queer support but can at times be hiding homophobia is shipping. If you're unfamiliar with the term shipping, it means wanting a romantic relationship to happen, typically between two individuals. K-pop stans may ship themselves with idols, but they can also ship idols together, often idols of the same sex and belonging to the same group. Now, shipping seems fine enough, just a fan wanting two idols to be together romantically, but there comes a point where it can become too much. There are tons of videos on YouTube shipping many different idols together, showing cute or romantic moments between two individuals. And while most of it is innocent enough, there are times where micro movements and friendly gestures are scrutinized and pushed into a queer lens. Shipping two individuals of the same sex isn't inherently problematic, especially if it helps queer individuals express who they are. However, it can become a problem when shipping is constantly pushed among two members of a group who may very well just be good friends. Relentless shipping and theorizing can put a strain on not only the idol's friendship, but their professional relationship as well. There's no saying for certain that idols that get shipped together are together or not, but either way, there comes a point where shipping can turn into not only an obsession, but can at times border on fetishization as well. This can be especially true when straight stans consistently pursue gay ships. Related to the idea of shipping is queerbaiting. Queerbaiting is typically defined as a marketing technique whereby it is hinted that there is a same-sex romance or attraction happening between two individuals, or just that an individual is not straight. However, none of this queerness is ever actualized. Zao 2021 states that K-pop boy groups and girl groups have trained together, lived together, and are just generally constantly around each other. This kind of same-sex environment may encourage queer tensions and fantasies. One K-pop idol that is mentioned in Zao 2021 is Lisa from the incredibly popular girl group Blackpink. Lisa has had many moments that have hinted at her being queer despite her never coming out. These moments include coming close to kissing members on the lips and proposing to fellow member Rosé and posting it on Instagram. Some believe that Lisa is queerbaiting fans. Of course, there isn't a surefire way to determine if a K-pop idol is queerbaiting unless they have explicitly come out as straight, but even that isn't always certain. A questionable case of queerbaiting is from an idol named Sorn. Sorn is a K-pop soloist and is part of the group CLC. Many K-pop stans have been angered by Sorn's queerbaiting on multiple occasions. Two such examples have been from TikToks Sorn has made. In one TikTok, she is making different hand movements to the beat of a song. Each hand movement is labeled with a sexuality. A similar format was done by other creators on TikTok. And if you correctly move your hand on beat, the last movement you do should be a limp hand, a hand movement notoriously hinting that someone or something is gay. However, Sorn ended the song with a peace sign instead. This leaves her sexuality open to interpretation. Another TikTok showed how Sorn feels when a guy calls her pretty versus when a girl calls her pretty. It's quite clear from the TikTok that she much prefers when girls call her pretty. Now, of course, many women do feel an extra boost of confidence when they get compliments from girls. However, many still suspected some queer undertones from Soren's TikTok. Both of these TikToks gathered a lot of attention and likes. When Soren was asked about the TikTok from gay YouTuber Edward Avila, Soren cleared up that she's very straight.
TikTok that you posted. Something about boys complimenting me.
Oh, no.
You need to spill it.
It's not. I'm very straight, people. I'm very, very straight.
Many stans grew angry that Soren appears to be queerbaiting just to bring in more attention to herself because she's aware of how queer K-pop fan culture can be. However, one may also suspect that she's hiding a possible queer identity but doesn't want to come out of the closet. Now, why would that be? Going back to Lisa, despite Lisa being shipped with every member of Blackpink, there are still some outside ships that happen too. One of these ships even got nominated for a Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Award in Mexico. Now you must be thinking, oh, this other idol must hang around with Lisa all the time and is close with her, and that's why fans ship them together. Well, that thinking is unfortunately wrong. In fact, the ship that got nominated was Lizcook. Lizcook is the ship name between Lisa and BTS member Jungkook. Lisa and Jungkook have never been pictured hanging out together, and many don't even know if they even know each other. Picture them together is just the work of talented K-pop stans and a bit of Photoshop. Lizcook is a heteronormative ship that is, oh, they are just a match made in heaven, look at the two of them. They are both incredibly popular idols, they're both really talented, they're both really attractive. Let me think of another good reason. Why should they be shipped together? You know what? I got nothing. No fans really know if they get along, let alone, once again, know each other. So why haven't we seen more idols coming out, and why can't more popular queer ships, if any ships really, be nominated for awards? Well, that brings me to my last point, being a queer and out K-pop idol. From a business perspective, it is not a good idea to have idols label their sexuality, even if they're straight. Despite being human beings, idols are basically a product for their fans. K-pop companies want their idols to be desirable, and that includes having them be single. To keep up this illusion of idols being available for the fans, K-pop companies will often assign a dating ban to their artists. If idols are single and don't have a labeled sexuality, they can be available to a wide variety of fans. But availability aside, there's another reason why idols coming out as LGBTQ+ can cause problems: the stigmatization of being gay in South Korea. According to Han 2016, at the judicial level, there remains no meaningful and enforceable national anti-discrimination legislation that would extend basic human rights protection to LGBTQ communities in South Korea. The South Korean Supreme Court ruled against legalizing same-sex marriage on the 25th of May, 2016. The stigmatization is especially harmful to young people. A 76-page report titled "I Thought of Myself as Defective, Neglecting the Rights of LGBT Youth in South Korean Schools" was done by Human Rights Watch and the Allard K. Lowenstein International Human Rights Clinic at Yale Law School. The report found that bullying and harassment, a lack of confidential mental health support, exclusion from school curricula, and gender identity discrimination are particularly pressing concerns for LGBT students. Young people are the prime targets for K-pop. If South Korean LGBTQ+ students are facing heaps of discrimination from not only adults but their own peers, what's to say idols who come out will have tons of support from the very country that helped them rise to fame? That being said though, finding queer idols is not impossible. Take Holland for instance. Holland debuted in 2018 as an openly gay K-pop idol. His music video for his song Neverland features himself and another man as they stroll along the shoreline romantically. The end of the music video even features a kiss shared. According to Hollingsworth 2020, Holland has attracted a lot of positive attention overseas, but back home in South Korea, reactions were muted and unsurprisingly, some were negative. A star like Holland wouldn't be able to exist at all if it weren't for the globalization of K-pop, argues Cho from the University of Toronto. Going back to my interview with Olivia, I asked them if K-pop has become more queer over the years. They stated, "I find it's becoming more common to see support for the LGBTQ+ community from idols and more discussion of it. Subtle queer nods have been around for ages, more so as fan service for fans, but now it feels like it's not just for fan service, but kind of representation." Things appear to be changing even more lately. November 2021 saw the debut of the first out K-pop boy group named Lioness with their song Show Your Pride. The song title has the double meaning of both a lion pride and the pride in being queer. So, all in all, queerness in K-pop is like a roller coaster. It has its ups and its downs. Queerbaiting and shipping pushed too far creates negative imagery of queerness. Continuous stigmatization of queerness in South Korea on top of an industry that pushes their idols to be available for all their fans stirs up homophobia. However, as we've seen throughout this video, it's not all bad. Twitter offers a space for queer K-pop stans to express themselves and participate in a community. Many idols have shown their openness to the queer community and have shown signs of solidarity. Some idols have even come out as queer. K-pop in general has helped youth also discover their sexualities. With that being said, me and many others feel positive about the future of queerness in K-pop.